Chemtrails Over the Country Club is the 7th studio album from American singer/songwriter Lana Del Rey. For the last decade, Lana Del Rey has been one of the most distinctive and polarizing voices in the world of popular music. Her breathy vocals and cinematic retro-style aura has drawn both critical acclaim and rolls of the eyes. I myself have been polarized on some of her material in the past. I think she has kind of lacked that consistency between albums, but she really hit a new artistic peak with her last release in 2019. Norman fucking Rockwell is by far the most universally loved and critically acclaimed album of her career so far, and I think it's her most expansive and lyrically interesting record so far. However, Lana Del Rey seems to be an artist that is pretty much always working, always making new music, and there hasn't been more than 1 or 2 years between each release. In fact, the very same moment that Norman fucking Rockwell dropped in 2019, she had immediately announced that she was working on new material, and that new album would be Chemtrails Over the Country Club. Chemtrails sounds to me like the most stylistically different album that she's put out so far. For one, it's the shortest album she's dropped. It runs just over 45 minutes. It's the most wholly immersed she's ever been in a single sound as well. The musical palette of the album is dedicated to soft rock, folky, and spacey instrumentals. Now, Chemtrails is nowhere near as expansive or grand or lush as Norman fucking Rockwell, but I don't think that is a slight on this album. It makes up for that with beautifully subtle but very detailed musical arrangements and Lana Del Rey's most reserved songwriting to date. For some reason, Lana Del Rey seems to excel at opening tracks to albums, and that continues with the song White Dress. It's oh so moody, it's driven by a slow brooding piano melody, but what makes this song super interesting to me is Lana Del Rey's strange vocal delivery. She accentuates and exaggerates her breathy vocal style to the point where it sounds like she's literally running out of voice, but I think it kind of works. Especially with the nostalgic lyrics and yearning for a simpler time, that adolescent quality just adds to the vibe of the song. It's an extension of the mature, detailed, more subtle songwriting style from the last album, and she seems to be excelling at it. I think that's exemplified with the title track. Now, I know the conspiracy about chemtrails is a load of bullshit, but the idea of seeing this thing above you and seeing it as just something nice and pleasant to look at points to that feeling of just yearning for a simpler time. That mindset is most likely a byproduct of both aging and getting older, getting more mature, but also being a celebrity. The next song, Tulsa Jesus Freak, takes a slightly different direction. It's even more minimal at points, but there are times in the song that it sounds like there's just a tiny bit of auto-tune in Lana's voice, and that's not something that I think we've heard too much of, but I think it really works. Tulsa is an example of how stripping back a song can really help encapsulate the mood you're going for, especially with a voice like Lana Del Rey's that is so distinctive. You don't want it overbearing her style. Everything is executed with immense control and restraint, but skill as well. Let Me Love You Like a Woman was the first single to drop from this album, and also was the first song that she had dropped since the release of Norman fucking Rockwell. And this song kind of sounds like a bridge between the two albums. It's an amalgamation of the two different sounds. It's more overtly romantic and dramatic than most of the other songs on this album, and I think that's why a lot of people felt this was kind of a throwback song, a more traditional Lana Del Rey song. Nonetheless, I think it still fits snugly in the tracklist. Unfortunately, it's at this point in the tracklist where I feel the quality starts to dip, and that starts with the song Wild at Heart. It's more of an evocation of a sound rather than being immersed in this style. Some of the lyrics are not her best. There's one lyric where she says, "I love you lots like polka dots, you're killing me more than coffee pots and Insta thoughts." That sounds like a shit Big Sean bar. But even at its most cliche, the songs are still pleasant to listen to, and that continues throughout the rest of the album regardless of the quality. Dark But Just a Game is the song I'm most conflicted about because there's some aspects I really love and some that I think don't quite work. Instrumentally, it's a bit of a throwback to her Born to Die days, especially with the loud, thick 808s. The whole song sounds like it has this dirty, dusty filter over it, like it's being performed at the back of some dodgy bar somewhere. But it's the chorus that drags this song down for me. I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds like it's been stitched together from a completely different song. Not All Who Wander Are Lost and Yosemite are the weakest songs in the tracklist. For me, they're the most generic and least interesting arrangements on the entire album. Breaking Up Slowly with Nikki Lane is where I think things start to pick up a bit of steam again. It's a country song at its core, but it's like a stripped back, more ethereal take on country. Their voices work amazingly well together against this backdrop of muffled but very pretty guitars. It's the most minimal song on the album, but I think it's one of my favorites. The album ends relatively strongly with Dance Till We Die being another country-inspired bop, with Lana Del Rey singing about covering Joni Mitchell, and then she does exactly that on the final song. Her cover of For Free keeps the aesthetic of the original composition, with the emphasis being on piano and string work. She brings a moodier, more cinematic aesthetic to it, but apart from that, not much else is added. This is the most reserved, stripped back album of Lana Del Rey's career, and some people will be endeared by that, and some people might still be yearning for that more overtly dramatic side of Lana Del Rey. I think it shows a willingness to try new things, explore different avenues, and as a result, mature as a songwriter and a singer. If Lana Del Rey's Instagram posts are to believe, she's gearing up for another album release in 3 months' time. So it's not going to be long for us to wait to find out what her next sound is going to be. Those are my thoughts on the album. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Make sure to like, subscribe, and dong the bell. And I shall see you next time.